This story was sent to me by one of my subscribers to the email you can find in my profile. He tells me about a clandestine place he worked in, which you wouldn't even imagine in your own nightmares. I warn you that what you are about to read is very strong, so if you are of a sensitive mind or stomach, it is better that you don't read it. Here is his story. I don't know where to begin. Maybe because putting into words what I have carried for so long, I fear that the weight will be even more unbearable. Maybe because a part of me refuses to face the fact that what I did was real, that those memories are not just a bad dream. But I can't carry this alone anymore. Guilt is like an acid that eats away at my soul, and the only way to try to free myself, even a little, is to bring it out into the light. A long time ago, I worked in a place that I don't talk about with anyone. It was clandestine, dark, not only in its location, but in everything it represented. It was a place where dishes with human flesh were served. Yes, just like you heard. It was in the basement of a hotel that, at first glance, was just another place, a harmless building in the middle of the city. Anyone who passed by there would never imagine what was happening under their feet. But I knew it, I lived it, and it still haunts me every day of my life. The restaurant was not for just anyone. You could only enter with an invitation, one that not everyone could get. You had to be someone important, wealthy, and willing to do things that most mortals wouldn't dare to even imagine. The boss of the place, a figure I never met in person, but that we all feared, was the one who controlled that small and twisted universe. I don't know for sure, but I think that not even the most distinguished clients knew him. Everything was handled with such secrecy that, at times, I doubted my own existence within those walls. The diners always arrived impeccably dressed, hidden under elegant masks that supposedly protected their identity. But with time, the eyes get used to the details, and although no one openly admitted it, many of those faces were easy to recognize. Politicians, artists, public figures who outside that basement walked among the people like any other citizen. I remember the mayor of the city, a man who spoke in public about justice and morality, but who in that place showed his true face, one full of hunger, of twisted desire. And I served them, offering them what they most longed for, even though I knew I was being an accomplice to something monstrous. The worst of all, what torments me more than anything else, is what we sold. Meat. Meat, but not just any meat, human meat. And at first, that's what I thought. They served dishes that would make any stomach tremble. Tongue, eyes, brains. It was grotesque, yes, but the pay was so good that, in those early days, I tried to convince myself that it was all legal, that I was just doing another job. The process was gruesome. People arrived dead, or so we were told. Employees like me had to dismember them, butcher them with surgical precision, cut the skin, open their bodies, and take out the organs. The blood was collected in huge buckets, not just to get rid of it, but because it was used to prepare cocktails that customers tasted as if they were delicate wines. There was an order to it all, a macabre ritual that had to be followed to the letter. Every cut, every organ, everything had its place and purpose. At times, I felt more like an executioner than a restaurant worker. It was hard to bear, but I did it. I did it because I needed the money. My hands shook at first, but over time they hardened, and my soul slowly faded away. Still, there was one thing that always lingered in my mind. Where did they get the bodies from? One day, curiosity got the better of me, and I asked one of my colleagues. He looked at me with a mixture of pity and fear. He told me that they were usually street people, people who would not be missed. But then, in a low voice, he added that if there was no meat, they had other methods. He never wanted to explain to me what that meant, but I didn't have to think too hard to understand that something much more sinister was going on. I worked there for 7 long years. 7 years in which every day I was faced with the revulsion of what I was doing, the nausea of knowing that I was serving dishes made of meat that, perhaps, did not come only from animals. There were times when other employees disappeared. They were simply called into the management office and we never heard from them again. No one talked about it, but we all knew. The next day, a new shipment would magically arrive, just when the employee had disappeared. Fear kept us silent, fear and money. The restaurant suddenly closed. I never knew exactly why. Some said it was because the authorities were starting to investigate. Others said it was simply because the boss had decided it was no longer profitable. The truth is, when they finally closed the doors, I felt relieved and terrified at the same time. Relieved that I wouldn't have to be part of that nightmare anymore, but terrified because I knew that, at some point, I would have to face what I had done. I came out unscathed, at least physically. But my soul hasn't been the same since. There are nights when I can't sleep because the memories come back. The images of the dismembered bodies, the blood running down my hands, the faces of the clients hidden behind their masks, but so easy to identify. Sometimes I even come to think that I was one of them, that by accepting that job I became another monster. There isn't a day that I don't regret it. And although the pay was good, although I could justify myself by saying that I did it out of necessity, the truth is that none of that matters. What I did has no excuse, and I know it. I knew it from the first day I set foot in that basement. And now, that guilt is my constant companion, a shadow that never leaves me, a reminder of what I was capable of doing for money.